So in interviews, what happens is they actually ask you about
What do you think about like courses?
course. So you can take a course in a week, but you're not gonna like.
How do you think of it? Like, do you think the market is sort of saturated right now, or do you think we actually need more good designers?
So that gave me a sense, that idea, matlab, ki, hey, this is what actual designing. It's like,
And at a junior level, what can a person earn?
I think if you're just starting out and if you have a salary that ranges from, let's say, so that kind of pushes the compensation down for designers.
Because I want this interview to be a little more actionable than most of the interviews that I've heard.
So there's this debate, ki, should designers code? I think definitely.
If you're a designer, it's ideal to not redesign books.
At least for me, the book that helped me the most was, when you're struggling, there's this sense of urgency, sense of like, let's say, inferiority complex, and so many things pushing you down. You have to do it, you have to get it done. If you don't do it, you're not a good person, you're not worthy of it, so on and so forth. Imagine if you did not have all those voices in your head.
Hi, Sumit. So I'm starting a new series over here. I wanted to have like an interview sort of series where I speak to different folks in design or startup and get to know about their journeys and stuff. So if you can introduce me a little about yourself. I mean, I know about you, but to the broader audience over here, that would be very helpful.
Hi, Som. Great to be here. So I think we've worked together at Take a Tape before this. So I have a like 6+ years of experience in design. So my journey is slightly unusual. So I have actually, it's not. Most of the designers are from engineering background. So so my journey is like, I was pursuing mechanical engineering, but I wasn't really interested in that. So I dropped out of college to do interface design full on. At When I started out, we didn't have like that much differentiation into UI UX. I was a UI designer, worked at very early stage startups at the start of my career, and slowly but surely, like kept rising through the rank. My last role was a senior product designer at Ticketape. Um, and I left the company, I think, 3 4 months back, and right now I'm just like figuring out what to do next.
Nice. So you went from being a mechanical engineer to I mean, front end developer of sorts, then a UI designer, and now a UX designer, right?
Yeah, yeah. So basically, in college, I explored everything. I was also into video editing, animation. I did front end, I did back end. So of all the things, I figured like that UI UX is something that like interests me a lot. But of all the things I did, that is something I look forward to. So I thought, ki, hey, let's do this. Let's like mm, how do you say, let's invest all your resources in one bucket essentially. So I was like, hey, let's pursue this one thing wholeheartedly, as opposed to like dividing your attention between 20 different things.
Got it. But you told me that you dropped out, right? Like this, I think, was around 2015 types. And what made you like take that decision? Wasn't it like a hard call because you basically didn't know what you would do next, sort of thing?
So I had clarity on what I want to do, but looking back, I would say that is not. It was not a good decision. Matlab, in my right mind, if I had to take that decision again, I wouldn't do that.
Mm,
There was like this sense of urgency that, hey, I really want to do this. And
mm,
mechanical engineering, I found it really boring. Also, I started earning when I was in college. So I was like
mm,
winning online competition in design. I had freelance work. So I
mm,
reasoned that, hey, this is something I want to do, and mechanical engineering is like very boring, very dry, and I didn't want to do it. And most importantly, in design, like you did not even need a formal like any education or anything. You can just like
mm,
become a designer. So I reasoned
mm,
that, hey, all you need is a good portfolio to showcase your work, and you need to like be interested in design. And for some reason, I thought, yeah, I'm a very creative person, so I
mm,
was like, hey, let's like drop out and do this full time.
mm,
So yeah. But after that, I had been lucky that I really got a job. I got a job very easily after that. And since then, it has been like easy going for me. And
mm,
being dropped, being dropped out hasn't really impacted me a lot in interviews or anywhere else, essentially. So lucky
mm.
in that regard. But yeah, I mean, looking back, I didn't like there was no need to take that drastic of a decision. I could have spent 1 more year at a college and learned few more things.
Got it. I mean, I can hard relate because even I studied mechanical engineering, and I mean, in my defense, like I used to because it was a little fun, but apart from that, the classroom part of it was totally boring and I couldn't relate at all. That's what made me shift as well. But like you told, I think you're one of the most creative persons I know, but you're also one of the most analytical persons I know as well. So I'm pretty sure there must have been like some kind of framework of sorts that you might have taken, or if for the people who are watching now and if they were thinking of like they're in a course which they can't relate to and they want to drop out and do something else, is there like a framework of sorts that you think that they can take which will help them decide this?
Yeah. So basically, when you're in a college, when you're young, uh, what there is ki there are things that you want to learn. There are like places you want to be. Ki, hey, I really want to be a designer or developer or something. But you don't have like the prerequisite skills maybe to do that, or they feel like they're lacking in something. So,
Hmm.
see, you should drop out if you think, ki, hey, I'm ready for the real world, I'm ready for the job market, let's say, ki, I have the prerequisite skill. But the thing
Hmm.
about college is, ki, hey, you have a lot of time in your hands actually. Like, there isn't
Hmm.
much to do in college. So, the framework is, ki, hey, if you have a lot of time and you are cushioned from the real world. Like you, all your needs, all your wants are taken care of. You don't have to really do anything. So if you have a lot of time in your hand, just like invest it and study about things that like really interest you, as opposed to like thinking, ki, hey, for me, I see it as that was not a good decision I took of dropping out because I had this urgency, a hurry, ki, hey, I really want to like do something. But if I had like waited 1 more year at college, I would have gotten better at my UX skills and I would have landed better jobs or I would have learned more things. So basically, my lifelong framework is like about upskilling, about learning new things, like keep challenging yourself. And in college, when especially when you're young, you have a lot of opportunity, a lot of time in your hands to actually go about doing that. So yeah, matlab, when you're young, when you have a lot of time, just like focus on things that really interest you, learn about them so that by the time you're out of college, you have a couple of options, a couple of things that you have already explored. So it kind of gets easier to get uh, a job after that.
Got it. And you spoke about like how being a dropout has not hindered your interviews or at any point, right? But I would want to know in two ways. One, like how did you prepare for job interviews? I think you mostly sat for like UI UX interviews itself, right? So how did you prepare for that at a junior level, and also how did you I mean, how did you like didn't let that being a dropout affect you while you were applying for these positions?
So for me, at least, being so I was pursuing mechanical from IIT BHU. So
Hmm.
being a IIT dropout is like it's
Southern
mostly
flex.
considered a yeah good thing than a bad thing.
Hmm.
So for me, when people look at my resume, they see I'm a dropout from IIT. I don't think that has like affected me negatively at all. And
Hmm.
at least as far as I know, hmm, ठीक है. So being a dropout hasn't really affected me. To answer your second question is like, how do you actually prepare for job interviews at a junior level? Uh, how do you prepare? Oh man, कैसे prepare करते हैं?
You just have to speak from your own experience.
हाँ वही I'm thinking कि did I actually prepare? So
Hmm.
so मतलब so for me, I didn't really do an additional preparation apart from the work that I've actually done. So in interviews, what happens is they actually ask you about real problems that you have solved or how you have thought about scenarios. Uh, they're really trying to get a sense ki how would you think they're really trying to get a sense of your problem solving skills and you get better at them by actually solving problems in the real world. So matlab, there isn't like matlab, doing product design and preparing for product design are not two different things actually. If you actually solve problems in the real world when you're working on something, you think from that perspective, say who the user is and what
mm,
problems they are facing and what are the problems I should prioritize, and based on that, how will I address those problems, so on and so forth. So once
mm,
you have that design thinking framework in your head and you start applying it to like different scenarios, different problems, then that kind of helps you navigate the interview wala part, where
mm,
basically they also in an interview, especially in a junior interview, you are given a scenario ki, hey, let's say if you want to increase the engagement of an app, how would you go about doing that? So you break it down and you apply the design thinking bits. So for me,
mm,
there's no like explicit uh, preparation step. It's just like how I did product design was like thinking in a certain way in the design thinking was thinking in a certain way, and then just I just applied that design thinking principles to
mm,
interview problems essentially. So that is
mm,
the main part of like cracking an interview. But apart from that, you need to have a good, of course, matlab, goes without saying, you need to have a good portfolio so that you get to that interview phase.
mm.
So yeah.
Got it. And even in these interviews, and prior to this, also you use a lot of design thinking and stuff. But I know that you didn't have like a formal design education, right? And how did you teach yourself all this? I mean, I think the obvious answer would be YouTube. But was there any other medium that you like, which helped you a lot, or was it just plain curiosity and solving problems every day?
Yeah, matlab, at our time, at least it wasn't design education, design thinking, UI UX ka thing. It was
Mm,
not as structured as it is now. Maybe there were a couple of courses about design thinking by IDEO, I think.
mm, mm,
IDEO was a like
mm,
big design agency at that time. We used to look up to that because they were the one who coined the term design thinking, and they used it in different projects, like
mm,
from solving all types of problems, not just interface problems. So for me, that learning has been very unstructured. It's a combination of like, so I read a lot. I read a lot of psychology books and
mm.
UI UX books, and then you read something and you try to apply it on the things you're actually working on. So for me, it's just like I was really passionate about designing. So for me, for for me, I was very passionate about designing. So I just like I there was no structure to it. It's just I designed a lot. I'll say like I used to participate in online competition. I designed my college websites. Then apart from that, like any opportunity I got ki, hey, I get to where I get to design an interface. I did that, and uh, then I kind of like reevaluated them. Like if you look at your designs after a year, you are like, hey, they're not good. So कैसे सीखा था? हाँ, for me, it's like designing a lot of screens and reading a lot. मतलब there was no structure to it, at least at my time. So I read a lot. I read like any blog, any book I could get my hands on, and
When you say my
I
time, what
like
do you mean? Like what? Was it like
dude,
20 years ago? Or what?
yeah, it is. हाँ मतलब so the field has changes drastically. मतलब I feel like in the last 6 years there's so much
Hmm.
awareness. Like when we were in college, we didn't even knew. Like when I actually took up designing,
Hmm.
I didn't knew there was this whole field about interface design and all that. All I knew is
Hmm.
कि hey, like people can earn something making websites and stuffs. But
Hmm.
now there's this awareness. There are boot camps and
Hmm.
YouTube penetration and
Hmm.
internet penetration in India. So people, at least college students, know a lot about design as compared to me when I was in college. So yeah,
Got it. But at that point, was it more UI focused things, or was it like UX focused things that the companies were looking for? Because I feel like
yeah,
usually when these companies, especially at startup levels, they're seeing mostly at UI level itself. So, do you think when you say awareness, I mean, there's more awareness now. Do you think people value more UX now, or is it still in that UI based
yeah.
thing?
Matlab, that distinction between UI UX, matlab, it's there. It was there even then, but we as designers kind of we understand it in a matlab, the people who actually practice design have a better understanding of where those lines are between UI and UX, and just like
Hmm. Hmm.
creating a beautiful interface and then
Hmm.
making it functional. So
Hmm.
we, since we do the work, we kind of understand it better, as opposed to matlab, there's has always been a gap between designers and then the folks who are actually hiring. But wait, that's not right. Because the people who are hiring are also designers.
Hmm.
Huh. Wait. Yeah, you can at least, from my experience, what I had seen is, and the opportunities I got, there was slight bias towards UI at that time, and I think that has always been there. It's
True.
also there right now, because if you
Right
see a
now.
portfolio with a lot of like beautiful, good designs, you tend to think, hey, this is a really good designer, basically. So that has been there. Waki, not sure if there's been a shift in the like past 6 years where there's more focus on the UX and stuff in the industry.
Hmm, got it. And I heard some rumors that someone's making a beautiful portfolio over here. When is that going to be launched?
Yeah, that's been an ongoing project for the like past 2, 3 months.
Hmm.
Hopefully by next week it will be live.
Okay, I mean, whoever's watching, if Sumit doesn't release by 1 or 2 more weeks, please DM him and ask him to release this stuff. But going onwards, we spoke about like junior level interviews, right? Like, and you're a senior designer right now. What do you think is like the differences between at a junior level and a senior level? Do you think there's like more strategy involved and stuff, or how does it work?
Yeah, basically in design you can say ki, there are a lot of parameters that there are a lot of things you need to consider when you're actually designing something. There is like the actual product you're designing, but the business side of things, ki how we, let's say we're gonna earn revenue, the development side of things, ki how much effort it will take, the of course the strategical lens, ki why are we making the things that we're making, and of course the UI side of things. So
Hmm.
at a junior level, you don't have that broader understanding. Ki,
Understanding. Hmm.
your understanding is quite narrow. Ki hey, like you know a problem and you try to solve that problem via UI only. You don't have that sense. Ki hey, how does business impacts my designs? How that
Hmm.
strategy, the development concerns. So since, and of course it's not a negative or anything, it's just you don't have that experience
Yet.
collaborating with different folks, yeah, yet you
Hmm.
don't have that experience. So as you get more experience, things happen with you. You design something really cool, and developers come back and say, ki, "Hey, it'll take a lot of time to implement." So you get initially you're like frustrated, ki, "Dude, like this is such a perfect design.
Hmm.
This should have gone out." But then you learn to compromise there. You learn to have conversations in product and figure out, ki, "Hey, in V1 we're not gonna go full on. We just wanna build an MVP, and after that, uh, once it's validated, we'll build a V2 where we'll have all the features and so on and so forth." So once you get those experience, you kind of transition into a more stable senior folk, where you have like when you're designing something, you have all those concerns from the starting, from the get-go, ki, hey, I need to make sure that I don't design something that will take a long time to implement, or I don't design something which is not needed to validate the MVP, so on and so forth. So it's just like,
Hmm.
for me, it's like having a broader context about the problem.
Hmm.
But at a junior level, that context, that broader lens is not there. It's like very narrower lens focused on the UI and UX.
Got it. But let's speak a little more in actionable tips, okay? Because I want this interview to be a little more actionable than most other interviews that I've heard. So if
Hmm.
I mean, I am still a junior designer. So if I want to go
Hmm.
to a senior level, what would be the
Hmm.
skill sets that I need to acquire to get to that level?
Hmm. So even in design, uh,
You can
so
think about it. You
design
don't have to
you.
answer it right off the bat. You can think about it for a minute or two, and then like,
Hmm.
okay.
It needs a very cross question. मतलब even in design, so you have like individual contribute. मतलब एक तो individual contributor वाला जो path hota hai where you become very good at, let's say, interface design, or you get very good at prototyping stuff, or you get very good at और क्या होता है और कुछ नहीं होता. And there's this managerial aspect to design where you lead a team of, मतलब you get good at strategizing and design system kind of things where,
Hmm.
so how I'm saying कि firstly it will depend on like where you want to go. मतलब when you say senior designer, it's a role, and different companies will have different emphasis on what they want from a senior designer, I think.
Actually,
Is
okay,
that
let's not even use the term. What would a designer with 1 year or 0 year experience? I mean, what kind of skill set would he need to learn by the time he has like 5 years of experience?
So हाँ, like सबसे most important skill is like collaboration, I would say, because as designers, at least initially in our careers, we tend to fall in love with our designs a lot, and that kind of hinders collaboration because we don't really listen to feedback. Not listen, it's like product has a different point of view, and development has a different point of view. Business
Hmm.
have a different point of view on how should be. So as a designer, there are a lot of boundary conditions, you can say, that you need to account for, not just like how it's going to look, but
Hmm.
how it functions in those different contexts. So uh, with a so what I said earlier, like to progress as a designer, you need to like account for all those different contexts. So to like uh, to go from junior to senior, or to like develop to become an experienced designer,
Hmm.
for me, like at least the framework that has helped me is like, how do I get more context about the problem? And when I say context, I mean ki, hey, if I'm working on a problem, how do I get a sense ki what is it that we're actually trying to solve? Like, are we solving for engagement? Are we solving for retention? So because that kind of shifts the focus when you're designing, and then getting a better sense of uh, और क्या कर सकते हैं. एक कॉन्टेक्स्ट हो गया प्रोडक्ट साइड से.
Hmm.
uh, uh, Another thing you learn is like, another thing is कि the technology, so we design in Figma basically, ठीक है,
Hmm.
but actually the implementation takes up, मतलब it's a front end thing. It'll happen over web, HTML, CSS,
Hmm.
or Android or iOS. If you have, मतलब you need to with a uh, after you have, let's say, 5 years of experience, you need to have some understanding of how those technologies work, because
Hmm.
that will kind of help you design better for those system. And for me, like so there's this debate, should designers code? I think definitely yes, they should code.
I think
Matlab,
one of the best things I've heard about is, even if especially with all these new no code tools in the market right now, even if designers don't code, they should at least understand the language. They should understand what's happening in the code, because if you don't know the restrictions, how would you design? So I think that is,
yeah,
I think it was Ashish who spoke about this, where he was like, even if you can't code, at least understand the damn language, so it helps you
yeah.
to know the restrictions.
Yeah, I mean the Figma auto layout feature, it's based on flex box layout.
Yeah,
So you need to know how it's similar, how it's different, so that
exactly.
you know the problems that developers are gonna face
Face.
when they
True.
port it. So yeah, मतलब broadly, I think it's very broad when I say ki you should understand like different contexts. How do you break that down? Like you should understand strategy wala lens ki at a business. You should also understand business lens ki,
Hmm.
hey, as a business, how are we planning to earn revenue essentially? How do we
Profits.
plan to, how do we plan to get profitable in XYZ years? Because
Hmm.
again, you might think that, hey, this doesn't really affect me, but it does. Like design is kind of this, kya hai design? It's like khichdi. It's like mash. मतलब, design, मतलब, all these different functions kind of influence design in one way or another. And the more senior you become, the better you are able to see ki, hey, how something like influences my design. So getting more context kind of helps
Hmm.
with making those decisions.
Got it. And just if you can give a little idea about this, um, like an IC role, individual contributor role, or a design leader role, which fascinates you and like why?
Uh, so for me personally, the IC role kind of like I
Fascinates.
feel like that's a good fit for me
Hmm.
because I've always like enjoyed tinkering with things like
Getting your
building
hands dirty.
things. Yeah, yeah. So uh,
Hmm.
so for me, I even though I like at Ticket Tape, I was a senior designer and I did enjoy like the managerial aspects of it. But for me, what uh, gets me up in the morning is like, hey, knowing that I'll be building something essentially. And even now I'm kind of like want to learn new things. I want to learn Swift so that I
Hmm.
can make those cool iOS animation apps. I already know React.
Hmm.
I've learned like data visualization and stuff. So it's like learning new things, building things on my own. So that is something that interests me. So yeah,
Hmm.
going forward, I see myself as like, yeah, they
Being in an IC role. I get that. And also you spoke about data visualization. And one of the things that fascinates me about you is that you're such a data analytics driven person. How and when did you like get this framework, not framework, like get this thought process I mean, when did you learn this kind of thought process to think everything through data and analytics? Because I see a lot of people don't doing this. They, since we are such visual beings, we go by what looks good and stuff, but you tend to be more on the data side. So was there anything like a book or something that you read which changed your perspective on this, or like how did you inculcate these skills like the data visualization part and stuff?
Yeah. So, firstly, like my fascination with data viz and data analytics that started when I was in Synaptic. So
Hmm.
that is
What is
one of the
synaptics?
companies. So Synaptic, it's an alternate data platform. Essentially, it's a platform for VCs. So
Hmm.
if you want to, let's say, invest in a company in India, so before that, if they have any quantitative data available, let's say how many website visits they have, how many app downloads they have, and so on and so forth. So we kind of aggregate all that data in one dashboard so that if you like search for Swiggy, so they'll show all the app downloads of Swiggy and what user ratings about Swiggy on Glassdoor, Alexa ranking, and like all the data, all the alternate data sources. So these are not official data. For example, Glassdoor is not like an official
Officials
thing. It's
source.
like yeah. So yeah, this is so at Synaptic it was very analytics focused. So I realized that hey, if I'm gonna build interfaces that have uh, uh, if I'm gonna build lots of charts and graphs and interfaces that have like a lot of data visualization, I
Hmm.
might as well like learn how the data visualization works. So there I kind of got my hands dirty, learned SQL,
Hmm.
learned like data visualization libraries. There's this cool website called Observable HQ
Hmm.
where you can build, they have this whole course on learning about data visualization. So there I kind of got into data analytics. And once I had that skill, ki, hey, I can now look at data and get insights from there, I thought, hey, now I want to apply that somewhere. So like, uh, I, uh, so I took the data that we have. So I then start. So there's this book called UX,
Lean UX?
Lean UX, and there's another book by the same author,
Uh,
Lean Analytics.
huh.
I think it's called Lean Analytics. So I just skimmed through the book. I didn't read the whole book, but then I understood that hey, at a feature level, you can ask these questions. Ki
Hmm.
the people who use a certain feature, what's their retention is like, or just like different parts of the application. There's like so many questions you can ask. Ki how
Ask.
many people who
Used it.
visit a certain page, yeah, visit a certain page
How many
through
people
the
dropped
following,
off?
yeah, how many people do. So I was like, hey, now I have this ability to actually analyze the data. And there's so many, once you have that ability, you are like, hey, now I have, like, I can start asking a lot of questions. So then I started asking those questions, and then I like started analyzing the data. And from there on, I got the sense that, hey, even you can do this at a start of project where if you're giving a problem statement, it just, uh, another way to analyze, another way to do a research. One way is to like go talk to users, but in some of the feature you're working, you would want to know, okay, hey, what's the existing usage like, and so on and so forth. So you can get those answers easily from the data. So yeah,
Got
that
it.
kind of made it a habit of like asking those questions at the start of a project.
Got it. And you told skim through stuff, right? I think, or do you do this a lot, like with the stuff that you study? Because I know that one, you read a lot, and you've said that in the interview as well, and you also consume a lot of content, be it books, podcast, etc. But I think you do this a lot where you skim through stuff, right? Is that
Yeah, so
intentional?
yeah, so I think there's this saying a lot of books can have been a blog post. Matlab, you can say
True.
that about a lot of books. So once you kind of get a gist of what the book is trying to say, matlab, some books are structured in such a way. For example, books by Malcolm Gladwell. So
Gladwell.
there's this one central concept, and then the whole book is like
A story.
it. Yeah, yeah, he gives a lot of examples in different contexts where that central thesis kind of applies. So once you get an understanding of that, you can actually like, matlab, at least for those kinds of books, you
Books.
can actually skim through that. So for me, like since I had already learned data analytics and I had an understanding. I was like, okay, let's see how what. But I hadn't read anything about like how do you actually calculate engagement. So and I had a sense, ki, hey, this is how you do it.
Hmm.
So yeah, matlab, then I actually started reading the book and I understood, ki, hey, they're like talking about the same things I already know. So that's why I skimmed through it.
Got it. And do you do this with design books as well? I mean, do you even read a design book? I'm like curious because I feel a lot of people, uh, especially if the people I know of, don't usually consume that much design books per se. And there is also like a quote going on Twitter where people say, if you're a designer, it's ideal to not read design books, read psychology and like 100 different things, neuroscience and everything else, but reading design books is not going to help you that much. So what's your thoughts on this?
Well, they certainly have their place, at least at us when you are at a junior level, when you're
Hmm.
just starting out as a designer. At least for me, the book that helped me the most was
Please don't say design of everyday things.
no, no. For me, it was The Inmates Are Running the Asylum by Alex Cooper or something.
What is it
So,
about?
no, yeah, it's about like the whole philosophy, not philosophy, but for me, this is how it came out to be. Because for me, I thought, hey, designing is like making interfaces, like
Hmm.
making things look cool.
Hmm.
But the way he walks through like different examples on how they faced a challenge and they thought about, hey, what is the actual problem that people are facing, and so on and so forth. So that gave me a sense, that idea, matlab, ki, hey, this is what actual designing. It's like in when we create interfaces, it's just like one like representation, one. But like making interfaces is not how you solve problem. You solve problems in your head. You kind of figure out like who the user is and what problems they're facing and how
Facing.
you'll address those problems.
Hmm.
And then you go out in the world, you create interfaces, you create objects and so on and so forth to actually solve those problems. So the whole philosophy of what design it, I got it from design books essentially. And matlab, that's one part to it. And yeah, matlab, they're right ki hey, like design is a very broad field. You need to have a good understanding of user psychology, how people think, how different like if you're working in a specific sector, you need to have a good understanding of that. You need to know how product work, how strategy works. So
Hmm.
it's always helpful. But like reading design books, for me, it helped me get a sense, like get a philosophy of what design is. So if that is something that interests you, you should definitely read them.
Got it. And we have been speaking about all kinds of medium, right? I think one of the things that we kind of skipped over is courses. I don't think you have done any course, or have you done anything in the past? Any courses that you have picked up?
Uh, I did a course, but that was on probability and statistics. Do you?
Lol. I mean, I'm not really sure how much of a relatable topic that would be for a lot of folks. But what do you think about like courses? Because I think you are a kind of person who would do more than like go to courses and take. But What's your thought process behind like taking a course, or which kind of people need to take courses?
Yeah, yeah, like courses are really helpful. See, for me, I was like really passionate into design, so I got on the internet like search everything like found everything there was to know about design. But if you are an outsider, if you feel fascinated by design, but most of people like don't know ki, hey, how do I get started? Matlab, if you're an
Hmm.
outsider, you don't know like, do I need to learn about UI design? Do I need to learn about strategy? There's this design thinking things that people keep talking about, and when I see portfolio, there are these like all these case studies which follow a certain structure.
Hmm.
So if you're an outsider, you're like, it's all very confusing for you. Matlab, you don't know where to get started, what is the right part to get
Path.
started, what are the
Hmm.
things you need to learn. So courses kind of provide that structure. Within
Hmm.
that structure, you kind of uh, get exposed to different within design, different areas essentially about user interface, about UX, about how do you think about a problem. So once you have that structure in place, then you can decide for yourself ki, hey, like UI is something, let's say I'm really weak at, so I need to work at that. Or maybe strategy is something I don't really understand, or design thinking is something I don't really understand. But you have that structure in your place ki, hey, this is how design works, this is how you do design in real life, as opposed to when you're learning stuff when you're in college essentially. So they're certainly helpful at the start of your journey.
So it's more like one at the start of the journey to get to know about UX UI in general. The other thing
Hmm.
from what you told I could understand is you figure out where you lack, and as in which skills you lack, and then if you want to overcome that obstacle, as in like learn the skill fast, you take the help of a one or two courses, and then like ideally it's still you do more of it and you just take help once you're doing it. It's like a substitute, sorry, it's not like a substitute, it's like a helping hand for you to do better, rather than just like learning from that course first and then starting a particular thing, right?
I didn't get what you're trying to say.
Okay, so basically, it's more like what people do is people like think if they do XYZ course, that is gonna get them from 0% to 100%. But it's more like you start at a 0%, go to 10%, and then when you get stuck, you probably take a help of a course and like fill in the loopholes that you have, and then go to 100%.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. Matlab, courses, uh, matlab, I'm not talking about boot camps here. So there are some really good boot camps that actually like take you. Well, I'm talking about 10x designers.
Hmm.
No, what is that? 10K or 10x
10K
designers?
designers. They're both now. 10X designers is by Fonsman, and 10K designers is by Abhinav, which is like India based.
Ha, yeah, fuck it. Ha, so I don't know anything
Sagar and
about that.
Sunal will kill you.
Dude, I don't know anything about this. I'm not gonna talk about this.
Cool, cool. I'll actually cut out that entire part maybe, but let's continue the conversation.
हाँ, the question is कि हाँ मतलब courses kind of हाँ, courses help you highlight like those bits that you need to work on. This is how I think about it. Like once you take a course, you kind of have a better understanding where you lack, what are the things you need to work on, and then after, मतलब because course, so you can take a course in a week, but you're not gonna like up your UI game in a week. You have
Hmm.
to do a lot of practice after that.
Hmm.
So that is how it works. Matlab, don't assume that if I take a course, if I have a certificate now, I'm a very good UI designer. Or, matlab, you do some things, but then you have to like keep doing those things over a period of 6 months, 1 year to actually get better at it.
Got it. And one more thing is, since we spoke about a lot of technical things, I know that you're more of like a spiritual person and kind of you have different things that you like apart from work. What do you think about like the mental health aspects of designers? The one thing I really think about a lot nowadays is like imposter syndrome and stuff. But with your experience, how do you think designers at your level, senior to you, or like especially junior levels to you, should navigate this?
Yeah, matlab, yeah, it happens to me too. Like when I started making my portfolio,
Hmm.
I went on the internet and searched a lot of portfolio. And I was like, wow, like people in college, people who are so much younger than me are like creating such
I think this
so
was
many
because of my
cool stuff.
video, right?
Yeah.
Link to that in the description.
Yeah, so that happened, and but yeah, then I reminded myself ki hey, well, it's like the old cliches advice that
Hmm.
you don't have to compare yourself. At least for me, I realized ki hey, like everyone has their own journey. Some people have been designing since they're 14 years old. When I was 14, I didn't even have a computer with me. So
14 is nice. Yeah, wait, I think I had a computer, but I don't think I had internet back then. But yeah, go on.
yeah, so yeah, matlab, you have your own journey and you have your own skill sets, you have your own challenges.
Challenges. Hmm.
So, matlab, doesn't make sense to actually compare. So for me, I was like, ठीक है, matlab, you have to accept that hey, there are certainly folks who are better than you. There are folks who are not better than
Better
you,
than you.
but
Hmm.
you have to do the best you can in the circumstances. And generally, like when we go on Twitter, when we go on Instagram, you see all these cool interfaces by folks you admire. You think, hey, I'm not, never going to get
Better.
better, as better as that person, but that is not true for me.
Hmm.
I take it up as like I get motivated by that stuff. Ki, hey, even if I practice my craft for let's say 5 years, 10 years, if you like look at it in the long horizon, you can see ki, hey, I can also be as better designers as them. So
It's the
kind of
perspective.
rather than comparing yourself and feeling inferior to them, you can take it up as take those people as your idols and say ki, hey, I also want to get as better as those people. So take
Hmm.
it up as a
Challenge.
challenge essentially ki
Hmm.
how do like what do I need to do to get as better. So that like how yeah shift, but doesn't really work matlab, when you tell people ki hey all you need to do is like not compare yourself and change your perspective, it doesn't matlab, again that is also a practice that you'll have to do. It's not like you can just say ki hey I'm not going to compare myself from now on. You have to practice that hey it's okay, I am where I am, and I'm giving my 100%. So it's okay.
Okay, so the one more thing I wanted to know from you is like, usually artists used to have this kind of notion that they are probably not in a good state of mind. They are alcoholic and have other bad habits, and that helps them in their creativity and stuff. But in the modern day world, you are expected to work a 9 to 5, and it's more of like you give your best all the day. It's more like a professional sort of things. Since we are like by a term designers, and our creativity is what separates us from like other folks, how do you like how do you see this? Like, are you a kind of person who probably needs some kind of, I mean, needs to detach from the world and to get their creativity, uh, like the best creativity out of themselves? Or is it more like you turn up at your desk at 9 o'clock every day and just like work out one problem after another, or one design after another?
Yeah. Yeah. I think what is Nike motto is like just do it, na? Like show up every day.
More of the
Like
professional
you,
aspect of it.
for me, no, even like in general, there's this study, na, ki, not study, it's more of an anecdote, ki one group of students are given,
Oh, the
matlab,
100 pictures
two,
and one
हाँ
picture thing.
yeah, yeah. So it's like you keep on doing, matlab, if you keep on doing something, there's no way that you cannot improve on
Improve.
it. Like
Okay, so just for
you
the people
have,
who don't know this, I'll explain it a little bit. So I think it was a study in US or somewhere where a professor gave two sets of people a project where they were asked to take the best picture possible. There are different stories. Some people tell it's a picture, some people tell it's like pottery or something, but the idea is the same. One set had to get like had to take 100 pictures to get the best possible picture, and the other group had to take one picture, but that picture has to be the best. So what the study reveals is that the people who did took 100 pictures eventually got a better picture than the person who and than the set of people who just took one picture, because the idea over here is the more quantity you put out, you'll ideally get better at even the quality.
yeah. But
That's
I
right,
think
right?
the initial questions you're asking is ki, hey, like artists, they felt like suffering
Hmm.
was really needed to
Hmm. Hmm.
create good art. I don't think that's true. Matlab, yeah, there have been artists, like good artists, who have Like for example, one artist I can remember is Charles
Yeah,
Bukowski.
I was
He
thinking
had
of the
some
same
really
exact
good.
person. Hmm.
Yeah, I actually used to read his poems when I was young, when I was 21, 22. And even I used to think, hey, you really need to like
Suffer.
struggle a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah, suffer and struggle a lot to actually get good art out of you.
Hmm.
But now I don't think about that. I mean, think about it. The more happier you are, the more freedom you have to like do things that you want to do. And if design is something you enjoy a lot.
Hmm.
Matlab, there are when you're struggling, there's this sense of urgency, sense of like let's say inferiority complex, and so many things pushing you down. Ki you
Hmm.
have to do it. You have to get it done. If you don't do it, you're not a good person. You're not worthy of it, so on and so forth. Imagine if you did not have all those voices in your head, and imagine like you're free from all the criticisms, like inner criticisms, then theoretically at least,
Hmm.
shouldn't you be able to do, if you're still interested in design, shouldn't you be able to do much better design as opposed to when you have all those voices pushing you down? So that's my take. I think you don't need to like suffer or struggle or anything to actually create great art. You can be a happy artist also.
Got it. And I think that suits our modern lifestyle as well, because I think people are in general are more happier now than they used to be. So I think that that helps. One last thing I just would want to know is you have been through different career ladders, right? At your so when you started out, you told you did freelancing. So if you could let the audience know what how much can a person earn during like their freelance stage, and at a junior level what can a person earn like in today's scenario, and at your level what might a person be able to get in terms of monetary benefits
So I think the numbers have changed a lot in the last, I think, 5 years. So when I started
for the
out,
better or
the
for the worse.
salary for the better, of course,
Hmm, hmm, hmm,
because of inflation, because
hmm,
of the boom and
hmm,
the field, the tech boom,
hmm,
the funding boom, whatever. So when I started out, like the salary of a junior designer was like let's say 6 lakhs or 8 lakhs, and if you are in Amazon or something, it was 12 lakhs.
hmm,
And from what I've heard these days, it's like 16 lakhs
hmm,
if you have a 1 2 years of experience. So
hmm,
at least, matlab, if you so I think if you're just starting out and if you have a salary that ranges from let's say 12 lakhs to 16, 17 lakhs, that's like really
hmm,
good. That's a really good place to be.
hmm.
And as you get experience, let's say with the 5 to 6 years of
You
experience,
have
I
5 to 6
think
years of experience right now, right? Yeah.
yes,
Hmm,
yes,
hmm,
I have. So with a 5 to 6 experience, anything above 30 lakhs is like really good. Matlab, the average, as far as I know from my friends, the average ranges from the average salary for like 6 plus years of experience ranges from something between 30 lakhs to 40 lakhs. But matlab that's a good number. If like if you have a salary which is more than 40 lakhs, that's like really good
bonus.
with 6 plus years of experience. Yeah, that's bonus.
Got it.
Yep.
And what do you think about you just told that like the funding boom and all that stuff. That also I would say gotten a lot of noise into the system where there's so much demand and less supply. Sorry, there's so much supply and less demand right now. So how do you think of it? Like, do you think the market is sort of saturated right now, or do you think we actually need more good designers?
We always need good designers, but yeah, matlab
I mean, not in
there's a
terms
lot
of
of
if you're Elon, you probably don't. I mean, he kind of fired everyone, so that would have had its ripple effects as well. But go on.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, but like, you're right. There are a lot of competition for the limited opportunities you have right now. So that kind of pushes the compensation down for designers. So
Hmm.
I think that has been happening.
Especially in this bear
That's true.
market.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true.
Got it. But that's pretty much it, Sumit. I think this was like a lovely talk. You, for a person who you told me that oh, you was an introvert, you actually spoke well. But if people want to reach out to you for either for mentorship or just say hi, where should they contact you?
I think they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can post it in the description.
Okay, guys, when you reach out, please asking when his portfolio is coming out. But apart from that, this was a lovely conversation. Hope to speak to you soon then. Bye.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Soam.